Hey guys, so I'm having to film a little differently today because one of my kids lost the piece to my tripod, so I'm kind of in a different place here in my house in a different setup, so bear with me. I know it's kind of a different background, but first of all, I got this shirt from Saida from the Precious Years at the homeschooling convention, so I just wanted to show that off real quick. But today I want to talk about just a recap of last school year. I don't know, I think I do this video every year, but I haven't gone back to see. I at least always intend to do this video. But I want to talk about kind of my successes, my failures, where I'm at mentally with this past school year heading into a new school year, versus talking about like, okay, we finished this many chapters in this book and this many chapters, because I don't think that's really helpful to share exactly where we were. What I can tell you is that we didn't finish everything, or we at least didn't get to where I thought we would get with everything. That happens every year. I always go into the school year with a plan of where I hope to be, a realistic expectation of where I hope to be at the end of the school year, but life kind of guides us every school year with where we need to slow down, family things that take priority, and every school year when we do finish, wherever we are, I'm always grateful for the journey versus well, I do go through a season, of course, every school year of disappointment, being discouraged for where we're at, but looking back, I'm always grateful to see where our family kind of took us that year. I think that I do always start the school year a little bit kind of like fighting the current of our family, and we always come to this settling point, not necessarily out of laziness, because we're always making forward progress in our homeschool as far as getting out of our comfort zone, trying new things, not just settling, because I don't want to just, you know, say, okay, well, this is how my kids are, and then produce some kind of complacent adult. But there is this desire for me to fight my family current, where that is a very healthy place for us to be. So yes, I'm always wanting to push forward, but I also appreciate that at this point in our homeschooling journey, I recognize where our family functions best and where we are working as far as relationships and education, where we're working best together. So as much as I fight that at the beginning of every school year, by the end of the school year, I see that I come back to that more centered place of, okay, this is my family. I know that this is what's best for us as far as certain subjects or certain schedules and things like that. And that's not by giving up, but that's by kind of going with my instinct as far as, okay, it's time to give this particular curriculum up. Not this is too hard, but this is not right for our family. So side note. Okay. So a few things I want to talk about with our school year this year. This was our first year that we went year-round, and I've mentioned it in quite a few videos, but it has produced so much freedom for us. I always viewed year-round as more stressful, thinking that, you know, I can't be constantly engaged like that where I'm schooling year-round, I need the break. The reality is that going year-round gave me the breaks where I needed it, and even now we're a week into our summer break. We're just taking 5 weeks off, and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited for next school year. I'm so ready. I'm already refreshed after taking a week off, because we got into this routine of doing school for a few weeks and taking a week off, doing school for a few weeks and taking a week off, and that week off has always been much needed and very helpful and just what I need, just a week. There were many weeks this school year that I took a year off or a week off in order to just be a mom, to neglect the house and just hang with them, take them to the beach all 5 days that school week and just enjoy them, really indulge in my relationship with them. And then there were some weeks where I took the week off and I sent them to grandparents, sent them to friends' houses, because I like super needed to deep clean my house, or we had housing projects that I just wanted to get done. So there was always a different reason why we were taking the week off, but either way, it was always very much appreciated and necessary and guilt-free, because I knew that after this week was up, we were gonna be right back into our school routine, and that was very, very helpful. In the past, if I took a week off because we had a housing project or because, you know, a kid was struggling, we needed some time, I felt this overwhelming sense of guilt because I knew we were falling behind. But this year it was the best decision for our family, and that's going to be an indefinite thing. We're going to continue that until that's no longer right for our family, but I can say that right now that's absolutely right for our family. So we're gonna continue being year round. Another thing I wanted to talk about was that habit training was our focus this school year. I've mentioned that every year I kind of bring in a different, most often a Charlotte Mason idea that I want to implement into our homeschool, take it baby steps 1 year at a time. And it is most often a Charlotte Mason, a piece of the Charlotte Mason puzzle. This year was habit training, but it wasn't just using her laying down the rails curriculum. I'll put a link up there if you're interested in seeing that. This year I wanted to instill a sense of ownership in my older kids by putting out some of their work in folders to have them complete before we sat down to do our family subjects. And what I was hoping for with those folders was that they would get to the point where they would wake up, complete their morning routine, and get started on that without me having to remind them. And we did get to that point. The only reason I would say it wasn't completely successful as far as where I wanted to be was because I didn't always put it out on time. So a lot of times they were coming to me and waiting around for me to make photocopies. But when I was on top of that, they very much followed through with that. But on the flip side of that, we did get to a different place with the habit training than I expected to be, which is always how it goes. It's kind of like a different success than your vision, where my three older, preschool, second and fourth grader, all got to a point where they were starting to see all of the habit training that we had been doing from laying down the rails and not complaining when we were doing our studies, things like that. So I saw more of like an emotional or mental connection with the habit training versus just completed work. So I'm very happy with where we are with that. We are of course going to continue laying down the rails, and I am going to continue that folder system, but I'm putting a little more effort into it this summer as far as prepping things so that I'm not the reason that they fall behind. Most often if they fall behind in something, it does fall back on me, it's not them. Another thing this year that obviously took us off track a little bit but was very helpful was our extracurriculars. So when I finally did get to that season, like toward the end of April or early May, where I was like, oh, we're not gonna finish math on time, we're not gonna finish this, I didn't do that. I was moving our piano bench, we did some rearranging. So I moved our piano bench and I opened it and I had put all their violin books in there, and I had completely forgotten that they had completed a violin program this year. We are going back to their private lessons, but they did complete a group violin class this year, and specifically Isabella did really well with it as far as getting a solo, building her confidence. And then Jesse did really well because he was the youngest in the class and he did a fairly good job of keeping up, which I was very proud of as well. And knowing his personality, that's a huge success. So I was moving the piano bench and I saw their violin work, and it was just like this wave of oxygen. I just felt so refreshed. I took a deep breath and it was just like, look, these are the things that you're not counting when you're telling yourself you're not doing a good job, when you're telling yourself you're not where you wanted to be. Look, they completed this whole program. And that gave me that sense of peace of not everything that we do every school year can be measured or recorded. A lot of things are experiences and personal achievements that you just forget so quickly because it's not on paper, it's not graded, it doesn't go in a portfolio. So that was super refreshing. So Jesse, of course, has gone round and round with sports. He completed that violin program. And then Isabella with her dance, she got very much, she got more plugged in this year, even though we didn't necessarily have the best year. It was a new experience for her being on a company, and now she's going to stay, hopefully, with this dance company, but I've seen through the course of this year, personal growth in her, things that she and I both recognized needed to change in order for her to be a part of a team. And she is taking private lessons all summer this summer, and I'm proud of her because she signed up for this on her own. She requested it. She sees where she could use some what's it called? She needs technique, but she sees where she's lacking in technique. So she is where we started the year with her kind of blaming the teacher or blaming the other girls in her group, she came to that understanding of, okay, if I am going to do this, I am going to take ownership of this, and I am going to take these lessons. So I'm really proud of her. So that was really helpful as well. So things that we don't measure necessarily in our portfolio, but I'm seeing these huge character and habits kind of coming up that are really helpful. And then the last thing was we joined a Bible study midway through the year. We had been a part of a Bible study years ago, this particular Bible study that I loved, but I couldn't fit it in our schedule years ago, and I had, at that point, 3 kids like under 5, and it was difficult to get there weekly. We joined back this year. Something just struck me at some point in December, and I was like, I really want to go back to that Bible study. It's neat because I go to my classroom. They have homeschool classes for the other kids because we have a large homeschooling community, so a lot of daytime activities does include activities for homeschool age kids, and so they would go to their classes, but we would be reading the same passage of scripture at home and answering questions on their grade level or an adult level, and splitting up and going and having discussion groups based on adult, if you're an adult, if you're middle school, elementary school, whatever. So that was neat because it was like this all encompassing. We were going to Bible study on Wednesdays. It was so refreshing for me to be alone with these other moms. It was really good for them to be in a classroom setting because we aren't in any co-ops or anything. But also at home, it was really sweet to be able to be doing that study together, and I love it. It's definitely, we're definitely in a better place with it now than we were years ago. So that was huge, and that is now going to be one of the main anchors in our schedule next year, because we joined midway through the year, so I had to shift things around to make that work. But going into next year, I know now we're gonna definitely plug this in as like one of the main events of our week, so that I'm not, you know, that day of the week, I'm not rushing around to try to fit math in and things like that. So some of the successes that, you know, academic successes that I did want to note for this school year for us. This is the year that I saw our composer study really connect, where I really saw my son, any of my kids connect with our composers. So we did Chopin, and my son, my 7-year-old, really started making comments here and there, things that were reminding him of certain songs. And he was, you know, looking, when we were on our nature walk, he'd be like, that reminds me of this waltz and blah, blah, blah. And I was really proud of him, but also that really connected me and with what we're doing with the Charlotte Mason method. I'm finally seeing, after a few years of doing this, finally seeing the first fruits of it. And if you are, I mean, we're not super invested in the Charlotte Mason method, but we do lean that direction. And if you do that in your home, then you know that it's kind of like a trust the process kind of a thing. You don't necessarily always see the fruits of it. You just have to trust that you're, you know, building toward this whole person. And I'm starting to see little glimpses here and there of what a positive impact that's making on our family and on my kids. So the composer study specifically this year really made a connection with also our poet study. We did Robert Louis Stevenson, which is a fun one to do with all elementary age kids. And my boys really loved that study. My daughter loves any poetry study we do, but my boys really specifically love that. And they both memorized a poem this year, and I was really proud of them. And they memorized it with you know, with movement and with, I don't know, it was almost like a theatrical retelling when they did recite the poem. One major success, our handwriting curriculum. We finally found our winner. If you guys have followed along here for a while, then you know that my daughter and I have struggled with finding the right handwriting curriculum. We've used a different one every single school year since she was in preschool. Yes, I started handwriting in preschool. That was my problem in the first place. But so she just finished 4th grade using Good and the Beautiful level 4, and she is flying with it. We're so happy with it. They look forward to it. It is big success. My 2nd grader enjoyed it as well, and so we will be using that next year, kindergarten, 3rd grade, and 5th grade level. I'm super impressed with it. It's you draw, you write, and then you draw, and then you write, and then you color. So it moves, it's not stagnant. They really love it. They really enjoyed it. That was a huge success, humongous relief for me. And then history. We do a history fair every year where our kids, and this is on my Instagram if you're interested to go back and see, it's a highlight reel. Every single year with one of my girlfriends and I get together weekly to do Story of the World. At the end of the school year every year, the kids pick a character, one of the historical characters or figures from the year, and they dress like them. They do a presentation on them with a display board, an essay for the older ones, you know, or a speech, and then we put out some of the different foods we cooked that year. The kids present that. We put out some of the different crafts and art projects that they had done that year, like in a museum setting, and the kids are in character, give their presentations to the parents and the grandparents. So this year, just being the two families, it was my girlfriend and her kids, and then me and my kids. We had our husbands there, and then we had 3 grandparents on each side. So they had, besides their moms, they had an additional 8 people there watching their presentations, plus all the kids, which made them super nervous. Oh, and my sister-in-law and my niece and nephew came as well. So it was a full house. It was a full living room when they gave their presentations, and I was really proud of them. And we also present them with little classroom awards, you know, just at the end of the year, just so they get a little recognition for what they had done throughout the year as well. There were only 2 things I can really identify as things I did not like this school year. One of those was the Good and the Beautiful science. I know people love it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but because we were used to Apologia, which was year-long, super in-depth, I just learned this year by trying something different that I'm not a unit study kind of a science person. My kids aren't, they're used to having used Apologia for years, so it stayed a little too surface for us. I know I can go and give them and supplement it and make it go deeper, but I'm just used to a curriculum that already did that for us. So the positive of that is that I now know what I really like, whereas before I didn't necessarily know that I really love Apologia. Now I definitely can say I really love Apologia. So we are gonna be going back to Apologia. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with the Good and the Beautiful. I know people love it. And I didn't find anything that I disagreed with in there. I actually really loved the creation-based, and I know Apologia is creation-based as well, but I loved the, you know, how wholesome the science curriculum was, and I feel like if we were to go back to the beginning, I might have used that for kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade level, but we just are so used to Apologia that we're gonna go back to it. So we actually really didn't do much science this year overall, to be honest with you. I did a little bit, we did their safety unit, and then we did a little bit of the human body unit, and I was just like, you know, this isn't for us. So we just defaulted back to doing a nature study throughout the year to supplement, or we've always done nature study, but we just called our nature study our science this year, and we just went with that. The other thing is I'm very aware now of how much more I need to prep. This was the year that it all came crumbling down as far as I have, you know, 2 like official elementary students and a preschool student last year, and it's just, I really needed to put in a little bit more effort, and when we had bad days, it was because I did not prep enough. Going into next year, having a kindergarten, 3rd and 5th grader, I definitely need to be accountable to getting my act together and having everything ready. So I'm spending a lot of the month of June doing things like that. I've already got things planned out, and I have a folder for everything, so now it's just gonna be me prepping as much of that as possible, and I probably will share that on here. So that's it. That's where our school year, that's my thoughts on our last school year, where I'm at with all of it. I would love to know what your successes were this school year, and if there's anything that you felt this year needs to change for next year. I think it's really helpful when we can hear from each other. So let me know in the comments below how your school year went and where you're at with it as it's over here, or if you're done with school for the year. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.